Hey friends! Today we're going to be reading Mr. Lunch Takes a Plane Ride by J. Otto Siebold. J. Otto Siebold is my dad's friend, so I really hope you enjoy the book. And also, if you like this video, please go to ABC Books for more videos and please subscribe. And now, let's start reading! Mr. Lunch Takes a Plane Ride by J. Otto Siebold and Vivian Walsh. Mr. Lunch was very good at chasing birds. In fact, he was a professional. One morning, a surprise phone call stopped everything at Mr. Lunch's bird-chasing office. Ring, ring. Is Mr. Lunch, the expert bird chaser, there? Asked a voice on the other end. It was a host of a television show. He invited Mr. Lunch to demonstrate his bird-chasing skills on his program. Mr. Lunch felt honored and accepted the invitation. Fabulous, the television host said. I'll send you the airplane tickets right away. Plane tickets? Chasing a bird on TV would be a piece of cake. But Mr. Lunch had never been on a plane before. This was a cause for study. He spent the afternoon looking over his many books, maps, and charts. He always liked to be prepared. Mr. Lunch thought his passport photo was quite handsome. Too bad he wouldn't need it. A meeting was called to find a volunteer for the show. Ambrose stepped forward. Mr. Lunch and Ambrose needed a little help to pack just the right things. And then, most important of all, Mr. Lunch said goodbye to all of his friends. Birdie, horse, squirrel, fireman, monkey, food, cat, ant, mirror, puppy, little girl, radio, rabbit, snake, baby, elephant, worm, owl, Joe, turtle, fish, chair, butterfly, and bear. Now he was ready to take his trip. First, they drove through the country, and then through the city, and out to the airport. The airport was a busy place, full of signs, loud noises, and people in a hurry. Mr. Lunch remembered in his studies that he'd wanted a window seat, but before he could even ask, he saw a sign that said, "Dogs ride below." Mr. Lunch, being a dog, would have to ride with the luggage at the bottom of the plane. The bottom of a plane was a place never mentioned in Mr. Lunch's books. It was the part with no windows. It was there, as he and Ambrose sat alone in the dim light, Mr. Lunch realized he wouldn't see with his own eyes what it looked like to fly, to be above the trees, houses, and clouds the way he heard the birds describe it. All he could see with his own eyes was luggage, and lots of it. Suitcases, boxes, and bags. What could be in all of these bags? After a while, Mr. Lunch decided things would be better if he investigated. Inside one bag was a cello. It belonged to a woman who played in a symphony. Mr. Lunch plucked at some strings, hoping Ambrose, who was an excellent singer, would chirp in. Ambrose was happy to sing along. Another suitcase had a scientist written on it. Mr. Lunch was interested in science. He looked inside the bag and found everything he needed to perform an experiment. A third bag smelled good. It was Chef's bag full of sugar and flour and all sorts of cooking stuff. It even had a chef's hat in it. Mr. Lunch was enjoying his investigation very much. Seeing the chef's bag reminded Mr. Lunch that what was his favorite time of the day, lunchtime. He unpacked his bone and some birdseed for Ambrose. After eating, it was time for a nap. When Mr. Lunch woke up, he saw a terrible mess. If anyone else saw this, his reputation would be ruined. With the little time left, he hurried to put things back, but it was hard to remember what went where. As the captain prepared for landing, Mr. Lunch forgot all about the bags. He realized he soon would be on television. Being a dog, it took Lunch a while to get a taxi. And Mr. Lunch and Ambrose arrived at the television studio just as the program was beginning. The television host welcomed Mr. Lunch to his studio and asked him to wait with the other guest. Mr. Lunch almost barked when he saw the backstage. There were the same 3 bags he opened on the plane, and he didn't feel good about this. The show began with a musical demonstration by the cello player. Unfortunately, Mr. Lunch replaced her bow with a chef's cleaver, and the song ended on the first note. Boing! The scientist was next. He was to reveal his new scientific breakthrough, but instead of the notes he had, the cello player sheet music, and he ended up with the singing solution. The TV show host was worried. Usually his show ran a little more smoothly. Mr. Lunch could see that the chef was using the scientist's formula instead of the recipe. Just as the final ingredient was added, there was a huge explosion. The audience was stunned. They sat in silence until the smoke cleared, and they saw it, a scientific super cake. The chef screamed, "My masterpiece!" This was no ordinary scientific super cake. Each piece had a different flavor, and the cake was big enough for everyone in the audience to have a slice. What had seemed so bad now looked like a baking breakthrough of the century. Coffee, raspberry, gum, chocolate, lemon, peach, butterscotch, banana, worm, special, strawberry, peanut, lunch, mayonnaise, tutti fruit, plum, and blue. Those are all different flavors of cake. Mr. Lunch gave his demonstration, and it was thought that he had never chased a bird better. When Mr. Lunch came home, he found bags and bags of fan mail waiting for him. He had no idea bird chasing was so popular. He answered every letter with a note and an autographed photo. Thank you, Mr. Lunch. Soon, Mr. Lunch was back to what he loved best, the end.